Greg Hunter?
So, Jahmile, the perception used to be that K-State's offense was a lot different than everybody in the Big 12. Is that still true? I mean, teams are more power-based than they used to be in this league.
Yeah, probably not as much of a one-off as it was in the past. They still do some things that challenge you and may be different than what you see on a week-in, week-out basis. I think everybody has probably a wrinkle or two that they do that creates problems and forces you to prepare and really be well-rounded in terms of schematically being sound. And so that's the challenge every week. This week is no different. And so we're back at work.
Ryan Pritt?
Hey, Coach. Looking at their numbers, they only have 2 turnovers in 5 games this year, only 1 interception, which is kind of surprising considering how much time a true freshman's played over there. So when you look at film, is it that they've protected him a little bit with some safe play calls? Is it just that he's making really good decisions for a young kid? And how big of a challenge is it for you guys to try to get one off of them?
Yeah, I think he does a good job. I don't want to take anything away from the kid. I think he's sharp enough. The coaches have done a good job with him where he knows to go with the football probably pre-snap, so before the ball is snapped, which means he's IDing what defenses are doing to him, and he knows where his outlets are, where his help is, and he's able to use it. I think the running back has been somewhat of a blanket for him in a sense, and to where if there isn't anything vertically, he can dump the ball down to a back, and obviously that kid showed that he's able to be electric with the football in his hands. And so I think any quarterback wants, one, a tight end that can make things happen down the middle of the field, and 2, a running back that can catch it out of the backfield and really hurt you defensively. And he has both of those things. And uses them well, to his credit.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Jahmile, their red zone numbers are really impressive, and the game changes when you get down there in secondary, especially. You have space on your side, but they're still, even them, they pass the ball well in there and they make some things happen. What have you seen from them once they get down and close to the goal line?
Yeah, I mean, just like everyone else, man, they use their tight ends down in the red zone, and they use them in a really solid fashion. It's not fluff. They're not dummy routes, but rather, guys that can be targeted. They're both athletic, showing the ability to go up and make the contested catches. And I think anytime you have that weapon down in the red zone, it creates problems. The other thing is that they're so balanced in terms of their attack that there are times where, obviously if you're barreled in on the run game, you can sort of overlook what's going on pass-wise, which is an issue. And if you're too passive, they run the ball right up the alley on you. And so, again, down there it's kind of, having one extreme or another and really being solid at it and sound. And I think the teams that they've been able to be effective against, if you watch film, literally they're forcing them to bust coverages, forcing them to misfit things. And so not necessarily do they have to make the contested catches at times. Sometimes guys are just running free. And so we've got to treat their pass game almost like you would treat an option run game. When you practice without a ball, and make sure that everybody's accounted for, and make sure that people have their eyes in the right spots, especially down there.
Cody?
So, Jahmile, what you just said was kind of what Coach Leslie was saying. We asked him about kind of containing Deuce Vaughn, and he kind of said what you just said, which is making sure the guys are looking in the right spots and knowing where he is. A player like that, does that just make it even more important that your players know what's going on and they know what to expect so they're not caught off guard?
Yeah. I think play to play, we want to account for all 11, and I think that's fair to say. Obviously, with the caliber of player that he happens to be, and really everybody on their team. In terms of their skill athletes, have to be accounted for. You look at, even their receivers, who the production may be down a little bit from last year, but they obviously have shown the ability to make the big play and really hurt you offensively. And so again, not to hold anything or really take away from any player on their team, but every week we come out, we want to make sure we account for wherever anyone is that can possibly help us or hurt us, I should say, down the field or in the run game. And again, this week no different.
Okay, John?
You're almost thinking backwards here because as a pass defense, you want them to check down to the running back.
Right.
But with these guys, he's their most explosive player, at least statistically.
Right.
But it's almost backwards in the way you go about this, right?
Yeah, you would think so. You always want to force the shortest throw on the field. I think as a defensive backs guy, that's going to be our goal, is to always force the shortest throw on the field and then force guys to tackle and tackle in space. We obviously know the issues that he presents. The problem there is that a lot of his plays aren't just checkdowns. They do send them vertically as well. And so you've got to be able to, again, do things within your coverages to make sure that, one, there aren't mismatches in terms of personnel, and then two, that you're able to leverage things correctly. I think that's huge in this game, and where you're wanting to cup the ball to keep the ball in a certain space, and your players have to know where their help is and where their help isn't in order to alleviate that. You know, if you're going to line up against this running back and cover 53 yards worth of field left to right, good luck, right? But if you know where your help is and you're able to play to that, that can cut the 53 yards into 20 yards of space that maybe you have to cover. And so that helps your job in itself. And those are the types of things as coaches that we've got to be able to do for our players to minimize the ability for the explosive play.
I'm assuming that's a multiple player deal too. It's not just one guy you got to use multiple guys with him.
Absolutely. And any guy that's an elite player at any position, you like to think that they probably garner a little bit more attention than maybe an average or subpar player, and they have a few. And so it's all about picking your poison as to where you want to focus your energy and really your focus on a play-to-play basis.
Last thing here, did defending Puka help a little bit there? You guys did a pretty good job of bottling up Puka.
Yeah.
I don't know skill-wise how they compare, but was that helpful at all?
I mean, anytime you play well against Puka, I think you feel good about your chances against anything else that you would see throughout the season. This kid is, again, dynamic, probably dynamic in even a different way, but proposes the same issues, right? Can catch the ball out of the backfield, can make you miss in a phone booth, and those things are scary for defenses and obviously defensive coaches. But we trust and believe in our guys, and we know they're up for the challenge and they're going to compete. And at the end of the day, that's the point of emphasis, is to compete, and that's what we'll do.
Greg Hunter?
So Jahmile, just your overall feeling on the defensive back play this year. You haven't rotated a whole lot.
Right.
Where are your backups? You not as much faith in them as the starters. Just what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just, you know, when as a coach, you almost want to evaluate how things are going early, and you know, if you see some things that you don't like, if you see some things that maybe you know, could be a mismatch even in our light, you make those changes. But if it's not broken, we're not going to fix it. I thought, for the most part, throughout the season, we've matched routes correctly and well. I thought that Dre Miller and obviously number 11, Nick Troy, has competed at corner on the edges, and both of our safeties have shown the ability to make plays throughout the season. And so obviously with that, you know, we're not going to make changes unnecessarily. Now, that's not to say that the guys behind them aren't good enough to win with, but we feel comfortable with that group of guys, and we've given ourselves chances in just about every single game, having played in that group, and so we'll stick with it.
Go ahead, Mike, if you want to finish this up.
Yeah, that kind of actually steps on what I was going to ask a little bit, but I guess just to get something out of this, are you flipping sides of the field? Or are you just matching up Fortune and Miller with matchups that you like, or where they feel more comfortable, or what the game plan calls for?
We change it up by game. For the most part, they've been left and right. But if we see a matchup that we like better, which doesn't happen very often, we may switch them and track a receiver or two. But for the most part, they play left and right. They know that in any situation they may have to go to the opposite side of the field. And what you don't want to do is pigeonhole yourself into having a guy only play one side, because if the situation ever presents itself in which he's got to switch, there's an issue there. And so both are well-versed in both sides of the field, and we'll continue to play it just that way.